Hello guys, tonight Ukrainian drones have successfully destroyed a number of targets deep inside Russia. In Penza, that was a radio factory, and in Volgograd a number of military and logistics facilities. That is the only working peace plan, taking into account that Putin openly humiliates any offers of the White House and continues targeting civilian infrastructure. Last night, Ukrainian capital Kyiv suffered from missile and drone attacks, killing 15, including a 6-year-old karate champion. That is what Russia in reality is, and I am satisfied to learn that more and more countries are prepared to abandon the Kremlin, specifically India. Honestly, I know I have a lot of viewers from this country, and I believe many of them know very little about Russia, having some positive memories about the Soviet Union, equating all the countries that were once a part of the USSR, but finally, with the pressure of Donald Trump and potential tariffs coming Indian way if they continue buying Russian oil, they seem to be prepared to stop doing that. And that will be just amazing, taking into account Russian economy is done. This was also a day of serious internet problems in many Russian regions. That is a new way to hide the truth from Russians and also to try and stop Ukrainian drones that still keep reaching the necessary targets. So let's discuss all of that in the video, and remember to subscribe. That is the easiest way to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and together we will discuss the collapse of the Russian Federation that has actually already started. You know that Russia is very dependent on prices of oil, and that they were jumping up and down, and many sanctions actually target oil and gas prices because despite decades of the so-called capitalism in Russia, we observe only oligarchy, and the country remains totally resource-driven. They do not produce anything competitive. They are not interesting from the perspective of science, from the perspective of fashion, from the perspective of, I don't know, mobile phones or computers. They only keep creating weapons and targeting other democracies on the border with Russia that threaten the dictatorial regime of Vladimir Putin, or similar, that they keep nurturing every decade, every 20 years. So the fact that India is prepared to stop buying Russian oil, to stop financing Russian matters of Ukrainians, is actually good news. That is the reaction to tariff plays from the White House. It's really difficult to get the idea what is happening, but I believe Putin has overplayed himself. Donald Trump wanted to give him lots of Ukrainian regions. I'm sure he was prepared to proclaim Crimea a part of the so-called Russian Federation and perhaps freeze the conflict, abandon Ukraine from joining NATO, but that was not enough to the bloodthirsty Kremlin goblin. He wants to have all of Ukraine. Now the official state RIA Novosti speak about the need to destroy everyone and everything in Ukraine because we don't want to be Russia. Honestly, with the start of the full-scale invasion, Putin started the full-scale process of the collapse of the Russian Federation. Trust me, there are lots of signs and symptoms, and as a Ukrainian born back in the Soviet Union, I can recognize these symptoms. Watch this video if you want to know more and stop actually being afraid of this process. But they keep believing it is possible. So I think there were a couple of weeks when Donald Trump could not comprehend that someone enjoys killing that many people and not getting anything, but on contrary, bankrupting his own country. Because what we observe inside Russia is actually a serious recession. And yesterday I've reported about this fixed prices. State control of prices is something that returns us back to the worst years of the USSR, also frozen deposits and many more troubles coming. And all of that in the context of overheated military production and Putin's sincere fear that millions of his soldiers will return back and actually start shaking his regime from inside. So let's be realistic and let's remain united. Subscribe to get the updates from Ukraine, and trust me, a lot of things nations in the world depend on the way how this war ends. Ukrainians are prepared to do the job, just do not limit us and support. And also share these videos. This is the easiest but extremely effective way to demonstrate your solidarity. And Ukrainian drones were doing some important job today in a number of Russian regions. And let's be honest, Russia is a war zone too. And it's not just about Belgorod and Kursk. It's about many of their regions. Specifically, this night it was Penza and Volgograd. In Volgograd, a number of military facilities and some logistics connections of the Russian army, but in Penza that was a huge and super important for the Russian army military plant radio factory. It constructs various radio communication elements for the military, and it is considered to some extent unique. Not many factories produce similar things, and it cannot be substituted. There are tons of videos where Russians comment on the explosions, which proves that they were successful, detonation continued, and right now the facility is not operating despite the efforts of the Russian authorities to hide the truth and turn off the internet. It's a new fashion, it's a new trend inside the Russian Federation since recently. They constantly turn off mobile internet, they put restrictions on this cable internet, trying to say that it's a way to protect from drone attacks because some drones do need internet connection or mobile cards. But let's be realistic, the majority of regions that suffer from that are located on the Pacific shores, very far away from the reach of the Ukrainian drones, at least for now. We are working on the improvement, but it's the way to hide the truth and to, hide this, to prevent this dissatisfaction from spreading across the internet, because that is still an effective way. And today it seems to me the governor of the Nizhny Novgorod was saying that tourists and people traveling to the region may feel a bit dissatisfied with the quality of the internet, but take it as a digital detox. I'm sorry, the digital detox is something that you choose by yourself, and it is not imposed by the Kremlin on you. And if you want to keep calling your relatives, using internet for e-commerce, or ordering tickets, communicating for your business, you do have to preserve this opportunity, but that's not popular in the modern Russia. Perhaps they do not know how to stop the truth from spreading and they start turning off internet. Please remember, Ukraine is a country under constant attacks with blackouts, lots of, awful nights, and we are broadcasting, everything is okay, and I do not remember any hour when internet was restricted by my government, which is another proof that Ukraine is a democracy. And today I'm happy to tell you that the law that changes the problems of the previous law, the one that we protested against, is now voted in the parliament. It's supported with more than 300 deputies, and it guarantees total independence of Ukrainian anti-corruption bodies, and was totally supported by our EU friends and all the other independent organizations that help Ukraine fight the corruption. So this is a great victory of the Ukrainian civil society. And whenever I speak about my country, I always tell you that the main miracle, the main strength, the main pride is our people. It's not the presidents, it's not the generals, it's the people, because people are the army, people are the protesters, people are the doctors, people are the teachers, people are those who stay in Ukraine and make the heart of our beautiful country beat. And that is very important, specifically after such difficult nights. I always try to keep it optimistic, but I do have to report you the truth. Today, Kyiv was under attack, same as many other cities, a lot of missiles and drones. That is definitely Putin's answer to the offer of Donald Trump. And by the way, right now I have my mobile app of air raid alerts informing me about the start of the alert. And unfortunately, they've targeted civilian buildings with missiles, and 15 people were killed, including lots of kids, like 6, 10-year-olds. And please do not let yourself get used to this. This is not normal. I do remember how at the beginning of this war, millions of people shared videos of innocent people murdered by the Kremlin, and now it seems like a part of everyday routine. No, it's not. These are beautiful lives destroyed by this totally unnatural, imperial, violent ambitions of Russia. And believe me, Ukrainians are a peaceful nation, and we did everything to prevent this war. We were following advice, this escalation management. Putin's annexation of Crimea was just like something that did not receive the proper reaction. But right now, with all of this sacrifice, with all of our expertise, with all of our determination, we know that the only working peace plan is to defeat and demilitarize Russia. Please share this to inform others. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to my new channel, Anna Danilchuk, where I have a lot of updates and more like discussion style videos about what is life in times of the big war. Follow me on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Discord, and X. The links are in the description of this video, same as the link to our merch shop with lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!